It's hard to imagine a debuting device with more of an uphill battle to overcome than the upcoming Google Pixel Fold when it lands in the United States sometime in June. It will be going up against a fourth and soon fifth iteration of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold series, a series of devices that has had at that point nearly 5 years to iterate, to solve problems, to polish, and to fully develop this device line. Competing with that device is going to be an absolutely daunting task. In today's video, I'm going to go over a handful of things that the Pixel Fold absolutely must get right to compete with the Pixel Fold in terms of features. And then we're going to look at a community post that I made where you guys shared a whole bunch of your Pixel Fold must-haves, and we're going to talk about those as well. So this first one I think is actually quite important due to the form factor of the Pixel Fold. When it opens up into a landscape orientation, and some Android apps simply don't play particularly well with that. So we're going to need, similarly to something that Samsung has built into their Z Folds, the ability to force apps to auto-rotate. Like I said, certain apps like Instagram will try and force their way into a particular orientation. We have to be able to force them to rotate, in particular on a device that opens up into landscape. Apps that don't support landscape, forcing you to then rotate your device is a bad experience. We've seen this on other devices like the Oppo Find N. Google absolutely has to address that. And while we're talking about forcing certain apps like Instagram into playing well with other hardware, let's talk about forcing multi-window. That's another thing you can do on the Z Fold device, and the Pixel Fold must have it as well. Again, certain Android apps do not allow themselves to run in split screen view with other applications. This is something else the Pixel Fold must address. You shouldn't have any app that will not allow itself to split screen multitask, because multitasking is going to be at the very heart of a device like this. And sticking with this, we're going to need that taskbar that we saw roll out with Android 12L. This one seems like the most obvious one. It should be there. It is a default feature of Android. In fact, you can take a Pixel device, go into the developer settings and change the DPI and force it to appear. So if you want to see what that taskbar might look like, you can do that on your Pixel device already. So that should be there, but it's going to be very important to this device. Now, assuming that our hinge will allow the device to stay in different postures, which I certainly hope it will, that's something that needs to be on this list as well. If the hinge can't let it sit at different angles, that's going to be a definite loss for the Pixel Fold. It also needs software to take advantage of those different hinge angles. Just take a look at the camera app on the Z Fold and you can see exactly what I mean. When the device is bent past a certain degree, you get a new layout that takes advantage of that new posture, if you will. We're going to have this kind of stuff on the Pixel Fold as well. So at this point, let's jump over to the community post I talked about. There's a lot of really good comments on here. We're going to go through as many as quickly as we can. If I don't touch your exact comment, I apologize, but do thank you for making the comment that you did. Let's go through as many of these as we can as quickly as possible. This is a great one from Ericsson, a Google desktop mode. This is definitely something I would love to see. With the Samsung devices, you plug them into a monitor and you get DeX, which is a full desktop mode. Now, Google has experimented with their own desktop mode, but they've never actually rolled anything out into the stock Android ecosystem or on their Pixel devices at all. In fact, if you plug your Pixel device into a USB-C to HDMI, you're actually not even going to get an output. And that's something we could add to the list as well, USB-C video output. And let's get a desktop mode going. And let's take it one step further. Perhaps this is what Ericsson was talking about here. Let us use the desktop mode on the tablet itself, beat Samsung to the punch. That would be pretty cool. Another one you're going to see a lot in these comments as I scroll is pen support, stylus support. A lot of people on this channel use their Z Fold and love their S Pen, or a Surface Duo and love their Surface Pen. Unfortunately, I do not think that a pen or stylus support is coming for this device. Now, the only leak I can point to is a really early one that said that they were using some older foldable tech. Now, it's a newer OLED, but it's older foldable tech, so that means that the pen digitizer should not be included. Now, maybe this has changed, but as far as I'm aware, stylus support should not be coming. That's going to disappoint some people, but It is what it is. I never use my pen, so I'm not really all that worried about it, but I get why some people would be. Meta here talks about different hinge angles. We touched on that. Totally agree. Shiny Moo Tank. USB-C video out is a must. Absolutely. Delta Zero asks, why is expandable storage so controversial? Adding an SD card slot would not bankrupt the company. It definitely would. And I don't think it's necessarily controversial. I think it's just something that has been left in the past, you know, like the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. It would be cool to have an SD card slot, but that's definitely not going to happen. Thomas hitting on a ton of things we've already talked about. Well put comment. Michelle says durability and great cameras. I think we're going to get great cameras pretty easily, pretty expected. The durability thing should be interesting though, right? I've actually seen some reports that Google is planning on marketing this thing as a more durable folding device. It's going to be a bit heavier. It's going to have some pretty durable materials in terms of the construction, and the screen itself is not folding at quite as tight of a radius as what Samsung screens typically have in the past, and that might lend itself to additional durability, a less, or I guess I should say lesser chance of the screen failing down the middle at that bending point, but that all remains to be seen. Wireless charging, that is actually an interesting one. I would expect it to be there, but no one's talked about it yet. But again, I'll be shocked if it weren't there. A Lion Like Mane has several good ideas here. Stylus support, 120 FPS video recording, 120 FPS in high-end Android games, which, you know, you're at 120 Hz screen, so that makes sense to have that stuff. 32-bit app support is actually really interesting because that may be something that's going away. So 32-bit apps, you know, might not work anymore. So this will be the retention of that functionality. The ability to hide that taskbar below, like on the Galaxy device, you can long press it and it will hide. That would also be good to have. Itemized app aspect ratio control. That is a great idea. The ability to set your aspect ratio per app. Samsung has this as well, and it basically allows you to have an app be stretched or shrunk in such a way that it works better on that screen. Again, we're opening up into landscape mode. So let's talk about Instagram again, right? If it's being stretched across, that's going to be a terrible experience. You're not even going to get the whole picture on the screen at a time. So you want to be able to shrink it and put bars on the side. That's a great one to call out. Auto rotation and then a 1 terabyte option would also be good. So guys, I think that's a pretty solid list of must-have features on the Pixel Fold. If I missed one here that you're like, man, that's a crazy one to miss, drop it in the comments down below. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.